Part 5. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 41. Who knows, but it doesn't seem to work. It's just a big deal. I heard that the local TV station will be interviewing the driver, told the information he knew. Let him be proud for a few days first, Ren Qianbo said and got into the car. Lu Feng has indeed shaken the local business community a lot, from fighting with nothing to the present. It is enough to make people look at him, not to mention such a large-scale GMA. Someone remembered the expenses one by one for him. As for the glass factory, it is impossible to happen again. Lu Feng has grown up, and he has heard of it with a little face. If you want to cheat, you can only go abroad to cheat. Today is the day of its establishment. Zhang Xiaoyan took the time to take a look at it. When she saw such a large factory with so many people, she was still a little dumbfounded. In her eyes, Lu Feng was still the second bastard, and putting more than 200,000 yuan would have an impact, but it was not as powerful as it is now. Mr. Lu, your office phone is ringing, it's from the newspaper. Let him call me later. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he looked at Zhang Xiaoyan and said, "Come in, what are you doing there?" As Lu Feng spoke, he picked up Duo, went into the office and put her on the table. When cutting the ribbon, he had something to eat, which he handed her to eat. It's almost like an electronics factory. Zhang Xiaoyan looked around and said in a low voice, "It's like a dream. Your electronics factory is a public-private partnership. I can't compare it. Stop working. Come here. I'll pay you a salary," Lu Feng teased. "You can be my secretary." Just me being clumsy, still a secretary. Zhang Xiaoyan sat down and said, "You work hard, I don't understand this, and suddenly I find myself washing clothes and cooking." "What are you talking about? You're still cleaning up your house, that's enough, you don't need to know astronomy and geography." Lu Feng could feel that she was a little flustered. Seeing all this, it seemed as if the distance between him and her was widening. She had to adapt, or else they had to go their separate ways. The phone on the table rang, and Lu Feng picked it up and said, "GMA Food Office, who is that?" "Hello, I'm from a local newspaper. I want to interview you. Do you have time now?" A sweet voice came from the other end of the phone. "Okay, I'm free now." After saying a few words, he hung up the phone. Zhang Xiaoyan looked at him and said, "Is something wrong? Why don't I go to work?" "Don't worry, snacks will be produced in a while, you can try it." When Duo heard the word snack, his eyes lit up and he shouted, "Dad, are there snacks produced here?" "Yes, you can let go and eat, Dad treats you well." "Dad," Duo cried out happily, plunged into Lu Feng's arms, and said, "I want to follow Dad." The interviewer came soon. Now Lu Feng is definitely a popular character. Zhang Xiaoyan took Duo to the next room. Lu Feng tidied up his clothes and looked at the 278-year-old girl with glasses opposite. "Okay, if you have any questions, I hope you can give us more publicity," Lu Feng said with a smile. "Yes. Actually, about your name, I have heard it before and wanted to interview, but I have never had the chance. As far as I know, you were still poor a few months ago." Lu Feng nodded. Obviously the other party had done a lot of investigation. "Then the speed of your salted fish turning over is really too fast. In the morning, I interviewed the owner of Wanyuan Foods, Mr. Ren. He said that you were able to rise so quickly because of dirty means." Lu Feng looked at each other. She actually interviewed Ren Qianbo in the morning. This is obviously a challenge. You have a big face, Mr. Ren is busy with divorce, and he has time for interviews. It's not easy. As for the means, I knew that my machine was smashed, and then the canned food was sold. Now there are factories still doing it, the only thing left is I don't know who is dirty after leaving his family. There are already thousands of local children's food. There are rumors from the outside world that when you reselect the industry, you will directly enter the field of children's food to target Ren Kanbo. What's the response? Lu Feng laughed. He said, "Don't be picky, I am a good friend with President Ren, and he has helped me a lot. As for making children's food, it is mainly because of high profits and good market prospects. You always say Ren Kanbo, and I also wish you well. Let him say, happy divorce." The newspaper interviewed for an hour, and then the TV station came. Facing the camera, Lu Feng was very natural and calm, kept introducing his factory, and said to the camera that GMA was born for the health of children. The host didn't know why he said this, but he didn't know that Lu Feng had set the tone for this company from the very beginning, and he wanted to use the word health to kill Wan Yuan. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the first batch of snacks came off the assembly line, and a few simple samples were placed on the desk, such as fruit tan skin, corn sausages, quack beans, and small steamed buns. Wan Yuan is doing all these things, and they sell very well, and they are the main products. Data threw a few small steamed buns into his mouth, nodded and said, "It's delicious. I remember that Wan Yuan's little steamed buns are 50 cents, a big bag." Lu Feng handed the motorcycle key to Han Dongdao. "Buy back these products from Wan Yuan, let me take a look." More than 10 minutes later, Han Dong came back with a plastic bag. The fruit tan skins were in bulk, costing 10 cents apiece, corn sausages were 30 cents, normal size, and a bag of quack beans was 20 cents, containing 10 pieces, and the small steamed buns were 10 cents. It's a big bag, 50 cents. This kind of packaging is very strategic. Either don't buy it, or buy a lot of it. If there is no choice, sales will naturally go up. Consumers are passive choices, especially when children cry and want to buy, parents have no choice. Let's do it the same way as he did, and he'll calculate the profit point, so let's just copy it, Data said very cleverly. "I think so." "Yes, we will close down in 10 days, Lu Feng said ruthlessly. "How could be?" The two were a little dissatisfied. "Do you know about differentiated competition? How long has it been in business, and the brand has also risen? You go to other people's sites and work with them, you are just courting death." Lu Feng shook his head and said, "You have to do the opposite." They didn't know what Lu Feng was thinking. They didn't study consumer psychology at all. Lu Feng spent a few days in his last life for this kind of specialized training, which is called pricing psychology. "Forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow." Lu Feng suddenly raised his head and said with a smile, "We seem to be missing a general manager, right? The general manager will come tomorrow, and we are talking about this topic." "General manager? You mean Gao Jiwei?" Datu asked. Lu Feng nodded and said, "I've been dizzy these days. I forgot that people were still waiting in the hotel. Now that the factory is running, it's time to tell him." "Aren't you afraid that he will come and burn the factory down?" Han Dong's face was full of confusion. "You lied to people who quit their jobs. What is cheating? Will your child speak? Let him resign so that he can accept a better job. Well, come here first, get off work." Lu Feng stood up and felt that what Han Dong said made sense. "Do you want to put a quick steel plate on your body tomorrow? Please remember this book's first domain name. Book Interest Pavilion. Mobile version reading website. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 42. Gao Jiwei was a little impatient waiting in the hotel, and even began to wonder if Lu Feng had gone to the United States. "There is no contact information for Lu Feng, so I can only wait." The next morning, the Metropolitan Morning Post, the newspaper with the largest circulation in the local area, featured a photo of Lu Feng in the headline. The headline on the front page read in bold words, "The snack industry is booming, and the Dragon Slayer has shown his sword." After Gao Jiwei finished his breakfast, he bought a newspaper. When he saw Lu Feng, he was stunned. After carefully reading the report, his mind went blank. The reporter not only exaggerated the grievances between Lu Feng and Ren Qianbo, but even coquettishly wrote a love triangle, labeling Lu Feng as a farmer entrepreneur, dragon slayer, avenger, and adventure. There is a smell of third-rate novels permeating the whole report, but it is not surprising that the newspapers now rely on this to sell. Master, let me ask, is this true? Gao Jiwei said in disbelief. Really, this newspaper is all true. The sugar factory in the suburbs has reopened. As for Ren Qianbo's wife, Zhang Yelai, who was Lu Feng's nurse, Lu Feng fell in love with Zhang Yelai and was robbed by Ren Qianbo. Now he wants to kill Ren Qianbo with his own hands and regain his true love, this thing. Uncle, slam it, I feel that this plot is comparable to Thunderstorm, and the death of Thunder is not worth it. Today's newspaper sales are absolutely good. Gao Jiwei is not stupid, he is also a person who has traveled from south to north. He has never seen any battles before, and he immediately understood. He clenched the newspaper tightly, biting it tightly, as if he wanted to eat people. Gao Jiwei made a foul language. He wanted to kill someone. His bright future was ruined like this. The first thing he thought of was to call the company as soon as possible. Went to the phone booth and called Wahaha's office. Hey, hello, this is Wahaha, who is it? Hello, I'm Gao Jiwei, the senior manager who used to be in charge of the market. Can you help me transfer the internal number of Mr. Zhong's office? Mr. Zhong is very busy, what's the matter with you? I was in a bad mood a few days ago, but I've gotten better these days. If I want to go back to work, that's all right. You can help me transfer to Manager Li of the Personnel Department. Sorry, the Marketing Department is full now. The phone was hung up, and Gao Jiwei was stunned. Now the company is on the rise, and the internal competition is fierce, but it's only a few days, and he has missed it. There was despair in his eyes, and a mist rose in the eyes of this big man, and he cried in despair. I don't have any grudges against you, you humming lied to me. Gao Jiwei squatted beside the phone booth and scolded Lu Feng's ancestor for the 18th generation. Lu Feng woke up and had breakfast. He sat there and sneezed, thinking to himself who was scolding him. He knew it was Ren Qianbo without asking. After washing up, he thought about going to see Gao Jiwei. But do you want to continue to install it this time? Renting a hutuban costs a lot of money. Lu Feng has been spending a lot of money these days. After spending so much money, it's not bad. After changing into a suit and leather shoes, standing in front of the mirror and looking at it, Zhang Xiaoyan walked over to look at him and said with a smile, "You are getting better and better now. How many people downstairs? Everyone thought that you came back from overseas, so open your mouth and shut your mouth in English." Lu Feng used to speak English with some simple vocabulary, such as thank you and goodbye. Then tell them, I came back from overseas, don't you think? Zhang Xiaoyan smiled, looked at Lu Feng, and said, now we two are standing together, isn't it particularly incompatible? What are you talking about? You are so pretty, don't think about it. Okay. Lu Feng felt that her heart was a little uneasy. He turned his head and put his arms around her neck, his eyes met, making Zhang Xiaoyan a little flustered. You should go to work. Kiss goodbye, you know. What's the goodbye? Who's like this? Don't be funny, hurry up and go to work, a lot of you are here. Zhang Xiaoyan was ashamed, and pushed Lu Feng's chest with her hands, but those soft and boneless hands were so soft and weak. Duo ran out of the bedroom, stared at it with wide eyes, and shouted, Dad, shame on your face. The child is out. Don't care about her, all the good things have disturbed her. Lu Feng lowered his head and kissed him as he spoke. Zhang Xiaoyan's eyes widened, rippling like a pool of clear springs, and after a few minutes they parted. Lu Feng said, I'm busy first. Lu Feng opened the door and went downstairs. Zhang Xiaoyan sat down on the sofa, still feeling a little lack of oxygen, licked his lips, and the expression on his face was indescribably ambiguous. He rented another hutuban, took Datu and Han Dong straight to the Regent Hotel, went upstairs and found Gao Jiwei's door wide open, and he sat on the bed with a decadent face. "I'm a little busy these days, I almost forgot about you, I'm really sorry." "Are you drinking tea with Gates, or playing cards with Saras?" Gao Jiwei raised his head to look at Lu Feng with a sneer on his face, and asked, "I didn't offend you before, did I?" "What are you talking about?" "My family, the two you are talking about are not familiar." Lu Feng already understood that he had been exposed. "Gates invited my master for tea, but he was too busy to go. As for Saras." Data wanted to help Lu Feng to blow, but Lu Feng stopped him. "Do you know what I lost? I joined Wahaha in the past 2 years. From a small workshop to today, I became a marketing manager. I became a general manager. It is a sure thing. Now my 2 years of hard work are all in vain. I killed you." Gao Jiwei roared angrily. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. He rushed forward, grabbing Lu Feng's collar and about to start. De Tiou and Han Dong rushed over immediately. "Don't move, let him fight." Lu Feng looked at him. "It's such a time, still struggling?" In Lu Feng's eyes, he was just a fish. When the greed in his heart was touched, he was already hooked, and now he has entered the net. "Is there no relatives here? If you are in a different place and have no relatives, come, hit me in the face, you punch down, I am a local snake, will definitely make you feel good." Lu Feng stared provocatively and said, "Come on." Gao Jiwei was stunned. He really didn't know anyone here, he just came on a business trip. Looking at Lu Feng, he said solemnly, "You are a scoundrel. I didn't say I'm a good person, but I promised you, I will definitely do it. I have a factory, and I lack a general manager. You can do it." Lu Feng said what he wanted to say. "It's just a small factory with 100 people. I really don't care. I won't play with you anymore. Go back. We have factories like yours everywhere." Gao Jiwei started to pack his things. Now it was Lu Feng's turn to be restless, and he said, "Don't be so temperamental, let's do it, the salary is the same as yours. Don't go, don't mix with liars. Don't you think that my factory is small, but you know that I was poor and white a few months ago, and now I have such a big factory, wahaha, you are proud of, in my eyes, it's not a fart, 2 years in 2 years. 100 million, give me a year and I can do it." Gao Jiwei stopped when he was packing his clothes, looked at Lu Feng and said, "Just you?" "Just me. If you don't believe me, let's make a bet." "Bet what?" 1 year later, GMA doesn't have 200 million. No matter how much it is worth, I will give it to you. If it is worth 200 million, you have to give me a safeguard for 10 years. Seeing that he was so confident, Gao Jiwei slammed the suitcase on the bed and shouted, "Bet. Please remember this book's first domain name. Book Interest Pavilion. Mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 43. The two sides wrote it in black and white, not only signatures, but also fingerprints in duplicate, and it was very formal. After Gao Jiwei put it away, he said, "Anyway, my future is completely ruined. You said, according to my previous, my salary is 203 a month. 203? Are you robbing?" Big Tou shouted. Lu Feng gave Datu a look, told him to shut up, and said, "Okay, let's have breakfast early in the morning. I'll tell you about the situation in the factory by the way. From personnel, products, markets, to funds, Lu Feng knows that people don't need to be suspicious. Along the way, Gao Jiwei's scalp was numb. This factory has just started to operate, but it has reached the standard of bankruptcy. It is simply the end of the storm. In the office, Gao Jiwei looked at the big head. Ever since he knew that he was in charge of finance, he had been staring at him like a ghost. "What do you think I'm doing?" The big head was a little unhappy. "How much money is in the account for such a big factory?" Gao Jiwei asked in disbelief. The big head took out the ledger, and said seriously, "There are still 47,265 yuan and 43 cents. Opening up a market requires advertising and spending money. Besides, what about employee wages? There are still 26 days before the employee's salary is paid, so don't worry," Lu Feng calmly said. "What about the raw materials?" All in arrears, Gao Jiwei felt that he had met a group of gods, and all of them were talents, especially this Lu Feng, a talent among talents. The big head said a word, which made Gao Jiwei feel like weeping. "If you can owe it on credit, you can owe it. If you don't give it, let brother Feng cheat." The head looked at Lu Feng with admiration. "A factory, it doesn't matter what you want, the foreign enemies are tyrannical, and the interior is full of fools." Gao Jiwei scratched his head, sighed, and clenched his fists towards Lu Feng. "I'm sorry, I'd better go back." "Don't go, you believe me, within 2 months, everything will be available, and the money will come rushing," Lu Feng advised. Gao Jiwei looked at Han Dong and Daidu. The two seemed to be convinced by Lu Feng's words. He really admired Lu Feng, and he was definitely a master in brainwashing. In his eyes, a company can basically declare bankruptcy in this situation, but as everyone knows, this situation is not much better than before. "If I remember correctly, there is a snack company in the local area, and I won't deal with you. Wanyuan Foods. It's not enough to prove it, it's worth a few million, it's just a small business, you stay for 2 months. Lu Feng said sincerely, "If I go bankrupt, I will pay you wages and buy train tickets first." Gao Jiwei nodded and agreed. He just wanted to see how this person went bankrupt. He had waited for so many days, not less than 3 or 2 days. "Daidu, bring over yesterday's product and talk to President Gao about the packaging of this product, as well as the market," Lu Feng said to Daidu. Wanyuan Foods. In the office, Ren Qianbo looked a little ugly, threw the newspaper on the table, and said unhappily, "What do these garbage newspapers want to write about? How about Lu Feng's factory? Production started, but the product still hasn't come out. I had a meal with a few of their employees, and they made all our products." Lu Biao is the general manager of Wanyuan Foods, but his presence is relatively low, and many things are handled by Ren Qianbo himself. "It doesn't feel competitive, don't care too much. The lion fights the rabbit with all his strength. Starting tomorrow, he will reduce the market profit and give profit to those terminal sales. Don't give him a chance to enter the market. He will die himself in a few days. It doesn't matter if he loses. How about canned food? It's very good. The daily profit is about 15,000 yuan, but the fruit in the village is gone, so we have to stop in the next 2 days. If we use greenhouse fruit, the cost is too high." "Then stop," Ren Qianbo waved his hand with a tired face, "I'll rest for a while." Gao Jiwei looked at the several snacks on the table, but didn't see any features. "As for the taste, that's it," he said, "just these few." "Yes, let's start with the psychology of consumers." Lu Feng reiterated yesterday's problem. "Do you still understand consumer psychology?" Gao Jiwei was a little surprised. Lu Feng glanced at him without saying a word. Gao Jiwei analyzed it for a long time and said, "If you want to go out, you have to compete with differentiation, especially in the grocery store. Children are about 10 years old, and they are most likely to consume impulses. To be eye-catching, Bright colors can be seen by children at a glance and increase exposure. Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief. A Gao Jiwei is stronger than 10 big heads and Han Dong, so he doesn't need to be so tired anymore. Go on. No more ideas. Wan Yuan uses large packaging, we use small packaging. A few cents in the child's hand are also money. The packaging is high profile and eye-catching. Children should not only eat well, but also have fun. What's hot recently? Cartoons, get stickers, characters, put them in there, do an activity, collect as many things, give money, give something. The more Gao Jiwei listened, the more dumbfounded it became. Although he said it plainly from his mouth, he thought a little about the series from packaging, marketing, and playability, and it was invincible. Is this your idea? Gao Jiwei couldn't believe it. He felt that he needed a very professional team for such a detailed plan. No matter how thick-skinned Lu Feng is, he is too embarrassed to say that this is his own creation. This set of classic processes is not made by a company, but a model that you add a little, I add a little, and finally form. Lu Feng just took over this old-fashioned model 20 or 30 years later. For Gao Jiwei, it was shocking. You still have some skills. If you do marketing, you feel like you can be a manager or something. Good product marketing doesn't mean you can enter the market. People have strong control over this kind of terminal market. I can't even get in the door, Gao Jiwei ruthlessly attacked. I have a way, don't worry so much, okay. That cartoon character is copyrighted. If you don't have permission, if you put it into your product to do activities, you will be scolded, Gao Jiwei said hurriedly. I forgot, you are shameless. The big head couldn't stand it any longer, and said, either you stay here, if you're not happy, just leave and sit here sneering. Big head, Lu Feng motioned Big Head to stop talking. I will design the product packaging myself, and then send it to the supplier. It will be officially produced tomorrow. Lu Feng stood up and said, let's have lunch. You can still design packaging, Gao Jiwei was a little surprised. A little bit, what's wrong? What's your education? Lu Feng doesn't know what his current education is. According to this life, he graduated from elementary school and graduated from graduate school in the previous life. If he said that he is a graduate student now, it would be absolutely shocking. Elementary school. Gao Jiwei looked at him and said that it was all right. A group of people walked towards the cafeteria. In order to save money, Lu Feng opened a small cafeteria and cooked for these people. Along the way, Gao Jiwei was a little tangled. This factory seemed to have no future, but Lu Feng was a person who made him unable to figure it out. He was thick-skinned, shameless, dared to think and dared to do, and he knew a lot, from marketing, product design, consumers know a little bit about psychology, etc. This is definitely not an ordinary person. The lunch was very ordinary, potatoes, noodles, cabbage, and a little bit of meat residue. Gao Jiwei watched Lu Feng eat wildly with a pot bigger than his face, and thought to himself, maybe there will be a miracle. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 44. After dinner, everyone was busy. Han Dong was in charge of staff training, and most of the financial affairs were busy. Lu Feng went back to the office to draw pictures. As for Gao Jiwei, the general manager, he had nothing to do and wandered around the factory. A good packaging design requires a professional team to polish it for a long time. If Lu Feng did it himself, it would take several years. He didn't have the heart to do it, so he copied and painted some classic packaging from later generations. Half a day is enough. Lu Feng also knew that it was difficult for him to enter the market. As long as others reduced their profits, they could squeeze the market in an instant, and even the best products could not be sold. Now is not the internet age, there are comparisons, there is self-media propaganda, All the small shop owners say whichever is delicious, the children will buy whichever, and even the product is put forward, and the sales volume will go up. Faced with this situation, Lu Feng thought very simply, to survive first, as long as the profits can pay wages to the employees, he will win. The simplest business competition is the price war, which is also the most cruel. Otherwise, what is the price? What about the butcher? Everything has just begun. Some people in the local business community are paying attention, some are optimistic about Lu Feng, some think he is not good. It has become a topic of gossip. Hey, Lao Chen, do you know that Lu Feng, a man in his 40s, with his hair parted, was very refined, talking on the phone? You worry a lot, the other end of the phone laughed. I don't know, but I know Ren Qianbo. You still know him? His father-in-law used to be in the same unit as me, but I was transferred to the Hongliang group. It's been very lively recently. A lot of people are talking about this. The words on the other end of the phone were full of gossip. There is a lack of entertainment activities, and some interesting things are rumored everywhere, and some people make up nonsense and say that Lu Feng is looking at Qianbo's wife. I haven't seen you for a while. Call the old horse for a drink. No problem, there are a few new girls in my unit, I'll bring them. No, it's boring, call that Lu Feng and Ren Qianbo. Ah, the other end of the phone froze for a moment, then smiled and said, okay, it's going to be a lively evening tonight. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Lu Feng handed over the manuscript to Datu, checked the time, and wondered if he should go to the canteen or the supply and marketing agency. The phone rang suddenly. Lu Feng hurried back to the office to answer the phone. Hey, who is it? Are you Lu Feng? The voice on the other end of the phone was full of arrogance, giving people a feeling of superiority and discomfort. Yes, who are you? I'm Chen Man Kang, the general manager of Hongliang Group. I've been listening to you a lot these days. I'll have a meal at night in the canteen of the metallurgical group, you know. Lu Feng frowned secretly, not knowing what was going on for a while. Hey, do you hear me? The voice on the other end of the phone was a little uncomfortable. Heard it? I heard your reply, what's wrong? After that, he hung up the phone. When Lu Feng put down the phone, the first thing that came to his mind was that the current steel industry is all state-owned enterprises, and this CEO Chen is also a state-owned enterprise boss. The other party's aggressive tone, coupled with the feeling that asking you to eat is to give you a face, Lu Feng felt that if he went to this dinner tonight, it might be a joke. He can tear it apart with Ren Qianbo, and dare not fight with these state-owned enterprises. Although the reform of state-owned enterprises is in progress, there are already many public-private joint ventures, but they are not thorough. What is a state-owned enterprise? That is, an iron rice bowl. It was not until the end of the 1990s that this iron rice bowl was smashed. A company like Ren Qianbo is already a big one in the private sector. Private companies are worth millions, and the whole city can count them with one hand. It's these people who are really embarrassing. You can tell from the tone of their voices. Those who go to Tianyu Hotel for dinner can only be said to be rich people, and all the cattle people drink Mao Tai in the small cafeteria. Lu Feng went through everything that could happen and what would happen in his mind, and instructed Data to take good care of the factory. He rode his motorcycle to Gao Jiwei's side and said, "Get in the car." "What are you doing?" "Take you to a delicious meal." Lu Feng smiled at him and said, "Don't be afraid, get in the car." Gao Jiwei sat up suspiciously, still a little uneasy in his heart. The motorcycle galloped into the metallurgical group in the suburbs. The 5-mile radius here is full of steel-making sites, including residential buildings, living quarters, and even a large supermarket. Not much worse than the city center. He went straight into the factory, asked the security guard, went straight to the second cafeteria, stopped at the door and found that Ren Qianbo had just arrived, opened the door and walked out. Looking at each other, Everyone understands that everyone is a joke tonight, and they are used for drinking. Lu Feng stepped into the cafeteria and heard that it was not for ordinary employees. As expected, the people inside wore leather shoes, suit pants, white shirts, and backs, all of which were standard equipment. All I heard was the section chief. That section chief, Lu Feng, started his business because he didn't like this kind of atmosphere. When he went up to the second floor, the decoration instantly became luxurious, giving people a somewhat magnificent feeling. Ren Qianbo's waist was straight, and he stood there like a pace setter. "Let's wait in the wealthy room," a waiter came over and pointed to the largest private room. "Didn't you say treat me to something delicious?" Gao Jiwei whispered. "Yes, don't worry, there are some to eat." "I'm not suitable for this kind of situation. I'm in the market. I'm most afraid of this kind of waiting, and I don't dare to speak." Gao Jiwei frowned and said, "It's uncomfortable to speak in a tone. I'm going back. You brought me back, and I'm not feeling well, that's why I brought you here." The two were chatting in murmurs. There was a polite voice outside the door, and the chat was very lively. The door opened, and Lu Feng saw 4 or 5 men, all dressed in similar clothes. There were 3 people in the middle, and 2 or 3 belts stood beside them. With a standard smile, he bowed slightly, and his eyes were full of sincerity. That state is obviously a manifestation of skill, and ordinary people can't do it. "President Ren, when did you come?" Chen Mankang walked in and asked. "Mr. Chen, I just came." "You are the one from GMA Foodstuffs, Lu Feng, right?" "Yes, I am." "It was on the wine last time, really?" "I said it was fake wine." "You still don't believe it?" "You still made a bet with me, did you lose?" "I didn't say bet." "Look at this man, he doesn't mean anything." Lu Feng was a little embarrassed to stand there, but he was used to people like them. "When I asked you a question, just after you answered, they turned around and talked about other things." "Sit, sit, sit." Lu Feng sat down, looked at his nose and his heart, and didn't move. He just finished eating and left. "Lu Feng, I called you here, let me introduce you." The man in the first place said, "This is the general manager of Hongliang Group, Mr. Chen, and this is the president of the local agricultural bank, Ma. I am the general manager of the steel smelting group, surnamed Huang." Lu Feng was polite one by one. If state-owned enterprises are considered business circles, these 3 people are definitely the top 3 in the local business circle. Everyone chatted, very well behaved, even Ren Qianbo had something to say. The atmosphere at the dinner table was not very active. Mr. Huang squinted at Lu Feng and said, "Lu Feng, what do you think Ren Qianbo is? Are you always your opponent?" High-speed text handwriting returns to the 1989 chapter list. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 45. Mr. Chen lit a cigarette and said with a smile, "This kid is a bit interesting. You can play with white wolves with empty gloves." "Mr. Ren, you have to be careful, I don't think you can." Mr. Chen said, "No, then I can't," Ren Qianbo said obediently. "Look at you, after so many years, you have no ambition at all," President Ma said with a glass of wine. "Come, have a drink." After 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors of food, Lu Feng drank a little too much. It is impossible not to drink too much in this situation. Mr. Huang looked at Lu Feng and said, "Young man is a hero, I know your situation. In a month, if you can't rush out after a month, you will be useless." "Yes, Mr. Ren, you can resist for a month," Mr. Chen shouted with his finger. "Lu Feng, just this yellow-haired boy, can you play a waist?" "If that's the case, didn't I live in vain?" Ren Qianbo said with a bit of drunkenness. "He is still too young to have the same knowledge as him. As for GMA food, it won't take a month." "President Ren is too confident," Lu Feng said. "What are you fighting against me?" Ren Qianbo clapped his hands on the table and drank alcohol. I just need to reduce the profit and lose some money. What are you selling? Who bought you? A month later, your employees will wages, suppliers, all come to ask for money. What do you do? The people present slammed it. This is a dead end. The working capital is too small to resist the beating. With a little effort, he can't stand it. This is why Gao Jiwei is not optimistic about Lu Feng. Mr. Huang looked at Lu Feng and found that there was not much worry on his face. He wondered whether this young man was confident or did he drink too much. Lu Feng, why don't you talk? Mr. Huang said. President Ma took a chopstick and muttered, you still expect a 20-year-old hairy kid to make a great decision, which is just shit luck. President Ma, this is wrong. He can lower his profits, and so can I. As for how to do it, I won't tell you, but I'll do it tomorrow. It's about money. Lu Feng snorted, a hint of pride appeared on his face, and said solemnly, do you think I look like someone who lacks money? Everyone stared at his face and nodded, either like, or very short of money. In this day and age, money is everywhere, and there is no shortage of money. Lu Feng looked at President Ma, stood up and said, the person I admire most is the president, and I respect you. Let's talk first. Toast is toast. I can't give you a loan, President Ma said with a smile. What are you talking about? I'm done. Lu Feng raised his head and sighed, turned to look at Gao Jiwei, and whispered, you are riding a motorcycle, now find me a camera. What do you want a camera for? Don't worry about it so much, go. Ren Qianbo put down his chopsticks and said, I'm sitting here today, and I'll tell the truth. Lu Feng, your factory, even if the immortals come, you can't save it. Mr. Huang thought about it for a while, and felt that Ren Qianbo was right. It was already a dead end. The follow-up funds were weak and he didn't have much momentum. As for taking a loan from President Ma, it was purely a joke, and they were not eating with you. A meal, a loan. That's what I want to say to you. Your factory won't last for a few days. Also, if you continue to play tricks with me, don't blame me for the trick, Lu Feng said with a sullen face. You want to play with me? I will play with you, but in my eyes, you are not an opponent. My opponent is in Zhejiang, in Hangzhou. Ha 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 ha. Killing me. Ha 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 ha. It's definitely up there, you can't say it if you don't. Not only Mr. Huang laughed, but even Ren Qianbo laughed. Lu Feng was referring to Wahaha. He couldn't even pay the employees' wages next month, and he was still thinking a long way. I think this young man, Lu Feng, is still a bit wise. I have always been generous to young people, and today I am the one who made the move. Mr. Huang pondered for a while and said, well, Yegong is here to give it to you. You leave a way back, long-term work is impossible. Contract workers are still fine. Mr. Chen originally thought Mr. Huang was just watching the fun, but he didn't expect him to be really interested in Lu Feng, but as the general manager of a large enterprise, he has worked in many state-owned enterprises, and even mixed enterprises. This person is definitely a big man. Guy-like presence. Everyone gave him a way out, and basically GMA Foods had already been sentenced to death. Ren Qianbo leaned back on his chair and sneered, laughing at Lu Feng's whims, thinking that a factory could collapse so easily. Don't thank Mr. Huang? Do you know how many people robbed this contract worker? That is, Mr. Huang thinks you are a talent, President Ma pointed out. Lu Feng really didn't expect that there was a person like President Huang, so he hurriedly stood up, held President Huang's hand in both hands, and said, thank you, President Huang, I appreciate the kindness, but I don't need it. Unuseful. Everyone looked sideways, even Gao Jiwei, who came back and stood by and waited to be seated, did not expect that he would refuse directly. Mad. Crazy to the end. His refusal was to give Ren Qianbo a big slap in the face, making him a little confused. Ha ha ha, Ren Qianbo said without smiling, it seems that someone has to go to the street to beg for food in a month, you are shameless. Mr. Huang stared at Lu Feng, smiled and said, maybe this is the young man. I happened to bring a camera today, and I was really excited to meet the three of you. In my heart, the three of you are my idols. I've been thinking about it day and night. I finally saw the real person today. When I received the call, I was excited heart, trembling hands, tears in my eyes. Gao Jiwei was full of question marks on the side. This is too exaggerated. He has an intuition. When Lu Feng is not like Lu Feng, he is trying to trick people. This person may have some bad tricks in his mind. I want to take a photo with you all, hang it at home, and put it by the desk to motivate myself. Lu Feng said it very sincerely, and President Ma and President Chen had already drunk enough. Hearing this kind of flattery, the whole person floated up to the sky and hurriedly said yes. Mr. Huang squinted and glanced at Gao Jiwei. Bring a camera to eat? This is not bullshit. I don't like taking pictures. Forget it, you can take pictures with them. Mr. Huang looked like he was drinking too much and refused. Lu Feng stood at the wine table and put his arms around President Ma. Gao Jiwei snapped several pictures, and took a few pictures with Mr. Chen. Lu Feng wanted to take pictures with Mr. Huang, but the other party always refused, so he had to give up. After 10 o'clock in the evening, the crowd dispersed. Gao Jiwei returned the camera and went to get the photos in a few days. Great use. Liar, what can you do? Tisk, Lu Feng slapped his mouth and said in a sullen voice, I am a serious person. I will start cracking down on Wanyuan foods tomorrow. I have to start doing everything that needs to be done. The effect will be seen within 10 days, and it will occupy the local market within a month. More than 30%, swallow Wanyuan within 3 months, and expand towards the whole province. There are still 3 months, where can I find the salary next month? Gao Jiwei parked his motorcycle on the side of the road, lit a cigarette, looked at Lu Feng who was slightly drunk, and gritted his teeth, I really want to smoke you now. One meal. Fight, I can't stand still right now. I can fight. After the fight, you have to do it with me. You can't talk halfway like a meeting during the day. Sometimes I think you have some ability, and sometimes I think you have no ability other than being abducted and deceived. You even cheat by digging corners. You say that you are such a person. Gao Jiwei took a few puffs of cigarettes. I have enough confidence to build GMA, and then leave it to you to take care of it. When the time comes, I will do other, higher-end industries, and build a huge business empire, internet, industry, retail, finance, entertainment. Everyone who drinks is starting to talk nonsense. Gao Jiwei sighed helplessly, got on the motorcycle again, turned his head and said, hold me tight, don't fall. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 46. When they got downstairs, Zhang Xiaoyan was distressed and angry when she saw him like this. The two of them helped him upstairs. Lu Feng was already drunk and unconscious and kept struggling. Don't touch me, Secretary Li, give these people money and leave. Lu Feng was lying on the bed and muttering endlessly, very arrogant. Do you know who I am? I, Lu Feng, the CEO of S/U0026P Technology, is money, I have money. Zhang Xiaoyan and Gao Jiwei were completely confused. He said some incomprehensible words, what short video new media, what 5G internet, what era of technological innovation, what global trade. Is his brain okay? Gao Jiwei felt that he was a little crazy. No, thank you for sending him back. Sit down and drink some water, Zhang Xiaoyan said politely. No, it's time for me to go back, Gao Jiwei said politely, turned his head and went downstairs. Zhang Xiaoyan closed the door, her smiling face disappeared, and when she walked to the bed, she found Duo Duo lying beside him and beating him with his hands, shouting, "Stinky Baba, Stinky Baba. Drink to death, forget it, it's just like before." Zhang Xiaoyan looked at him, the memory of the past emerged in her mind, she got even more angry, raised her hand and slapped him twice on the thigh. "You dare to hit me," Lu Feng hummed. "Yo, didn't you drink numb? Do you know it hurts?" Lu Feng just felt that he was spinning. 1 bottle of white wine and 5 bottles of beer were already his limit. The memory in his mind was chaotic, and his past and present life kept appearing in front of his eyes. He felt as if he had returned to 10 years ago. At that time, he had just started his own business. Because of losing money, his life could not be maintained. His girlfriend, who used to make an oath of each other, had a quarrel because he wanted to change a mobile phone, and finally broke up. This incident was very exciting to him. He used to think that as long as two people were together, all difficulties would be small problems, but how many women in this world are willing to accompany you? Don't think I have no money, or think I'm poor, wait until I get rich, I'll find. Zhang Xiaoyan wiped his face with a towel, her hands froze on the spot when she heard this, and she looked at him and said, "What did you say? You speak with conscience, when did I think you were poor? You can't hold back the truth if you drink some wine. Come on, what are you looking for?" I'm looking for a beautiful one." Zhang Xiaoyan angrily threw the towel into the basin, kicked several times, and kicked Lu Feng off the bed, covering his face and crying. At 8 o'clock the next morning, Lu Feng woke up and found himself lying on the ground, got up and said, "How can I sleep on the ground? I didn't throw you downstairs, I already gave you face." Zhang Xiaoyan reached out and opened the curtains and said, "People say they tell the truth after drinking, is that true?" Lu Feng patted his head with his hand, remembering what he said last night. He smiled awkwardly and said, "No, can the wine talk be serious? Isn't it amazing? Find someone beautiful, go, you have this strength now." "I was wrong, there's no one more beautiful than you." Lu Feng put his arms around her slender waist from behind, feeling a little emotional. Perhaps the most important thing for him in this life is that there is a woman who is sincere, stay by his side. "Stop it." Lu Feng was busy changing his clothes while coaxing Zhang Xiaoyan. From time to time, he made small movements to stir up both of them. He was like a loyal guard. After breakfast, Lu Feng squatted down and kissed Duo Duo. He said earnestly, "When Dad makes money, he will definitely send you to kindergarten, I swear." How old did she go to school? Zhang Xiaoyan saw through Lu Feng's thoughts at a glance, and rolled her eyes at him and said, "Aren't you busy, you still have other thoughts on your mind?" Lu Feng stood up, hugged her and kissed her fiercely, then went downstairs with the bag. What happened at the dinner last night has spread all over the local business community. Now everyone is waiting to watch the show. According to Mr. Huang, Lu Feng is called the salted fish turning over. Can he turn it over? It's up to him. When Lu Feng went to the factory, yesterday's product design and packaging had been released, and the first batch was produced. The price was cheaper than yuan's, and the profit was also given to terminal sales. On the desk, there is a brightly colored plastic sign with several large characters, GMA, Born for Children's Health, among which the word health is marked in green, which is very eye-catching. Gao Jiwei looked at the brand and read the following line of words: "This product has won the International Safety Certification and is a National Children's Food Grade 5A product." Isn't this a lie? This is called marketing. Don't talk if you don't understand. Lu Feng waved his hand. I went for a walk in a few canteens in the morning. Yuan's products are all in front, and the wholesale market is also exerting its strength. Even if you squeeze in, it will be a bloodbath. Then I'll squeeze into. Lu Feng put away the sign and said, "Go to the market, Mr. Gao, follow me." Gao Jiwei wanted to see what tricks he had. He sat in the back seat with a lot of products, and asked curiously, "What are you going to do?" "Trick those canteen bosses to put your products in the front." "Then I lied to come here, let the profit, he makes a lot of money, naturally help me." Lu Feng rode a motorcycle to the canteen opposite the number 1 middle school in the city. Now the students are in class, and there is no one else. The boss is sitting there reading the newspaper, and the headline is Lu Feng. "Hello, boss," Lu Feng greeted. The boss raised his head and glanced at it, then looked at the newspaper again, read it back and forth 2 or 3 times, and said in surprise, "You are the person in the newspaper, right?" Yes, you can see it alive." Lu Feng thought that he was an internet celebrity now, so long as he was famous, he could talk. "Bah, you shameless bastard, you are honored to play with other people's wives in the newspaper, aren't you?" the boss spat. Lu Feng's head was full of black lines, and he took a closer look. He didn't know what broken newspapers were. He wrote a bunch of lace news along the Metropolitan Daily. The second edition even printed a bikini beauty. "As for the product, I didn't even mention it." The boss told him to go away, thinking he was unlucky. Gao Jiwei wanted to laugh, but when he saw Lu Feng's embarrassed look, he was afraid to annoy him, so he had to hold back. "It's funny. Do you think this kind of rotten newspaper put me in the headlines? Did someone spend money?" Lu Feng sighed and said, "The next one." Gao Jiwei thought about it carefully, and it was really wrong. Lu Feng also appeared in the newspaper once. Now the newspapers are as numerous as the WeMedia articles 20 or 30 years later. I went to 4 or 5 stores in a row, and all of them were launched. I left the goods there first, and put the brand on the counter. The comprehensive net profit of these snacks is 63%, and 600% is given to the merchants. No one will refuse to agree, it is just throwing money. At 10 o'clock in the morning, GMA's snacks were placed in all the 15 canteens. Lu Feng did not continue, but squatted and smoked in the canteen opposite an elementary school. "You rely on these 15 canteens to make money?" Gao Jiwei wondered. "These 15 canteens are used for experiments. Do you know that the first time a person uses penicillin is to do a skin test?" Lu Feng stared at him and said, "I'm doing a skin test right now." "Skin test?" As the school bell rang, the children rushed out, and the canteen was overcrowded in an instant. They were too familiar with this canteen, and they were a little curious when faced with the sudden appearance of GMA snacks. "What is this?" "Eat, play, there is a little person in it, and if you collect it, you can exchange it for gifts. 5 cents each." "I'll buy one." A child bought one, and when he unpacked it, there were a few quack beans and a thumb-sized plastic figure, the black bear. Another kid took it apart and found a golden horn king. "You black bear monster is not as powerful as King Golden Horn," Lu Feng said from the side. "There is a combat strength meter on the bag, and your combat strength is only a few hundred, so you can't beat it." Knowing that the king of the golden horn in his hand is very powerful, the child screamed with ecstasy, and the other child was very dissatisfied, and took out 5 cents to buy a pack. "Aren't you sober?" Gao Jiwei stared at Lu Feng as if he was mentally retarded, and said, "Squatting here and provoking 2 children." Lu Feng said with a smile on his face, "I'm adding fire to their desires." So far, the results of the skin test are not bad. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 47. Gao Jiwei couldn't understand Lu Feng's words a little, but the development of the next few children surprised him, and there was a battle strength table of the internal characters on the packaging bag. As the 2 children took out the things, others were also itching, and some people bought one, so the comparison began. "I'm better than you, a little bit. I have 6-eared macaques, stronger than you. Superiority, vanity, come into play. When you have a character with higher combat power, it will become the focus of the audience, and no child will be as valuable as it. Lu Feng went through all the 15 canteens, and the situation was similar, except for the canteen opposite the high school, which was obviously not attractive to them. At noon, in the noodle restaurant, Lu Feng was gulps and gulps of his face. His head was full of sweat. Gao Jiwei said, "I'm starting to admire you." "What do you admire me for?" "You have a dark heart, dare to do it, and actually play with children's psychology. That brand is a reassurance for parents, so that they will not reject it. When adults do not let children buy it because of unhealthy conditions, children can take the words on the brand as shield." Lu Feng nodded, put down the noodle bowl, and burped, "That's it, you admire it? I haven't started playing yet. I think it's not a loss for you to go to any company to do marketing and give you the position of vice president." Gao Jiwei pondered for a while and said, "If you don't want to go to the south with me, I know many bosses, and I will introduce you to them." "A bit. I will go to the south. When I swept the 4 directions, I will go. Let's go." Lu Feng stood up and paid the bill. "What are you going to do?" "Give Mr. Ren's eye drops, Tommers, buy a small newspaper to compile my peach-colored news. It's cheap, I'm a dignified gentleman, and I'm not afraid of shadows." Lu Feng counted the money to the boss and praised himself. The boss. Everyone frowned. In addition to staring at production, Lu Biao has been staring at Lu Feng these days. In the office, Lu Biao briefly explained the situation. "The profits are basically given to the commissary. The sales are good, but the sales are too much, and the losses are too much, so it can't be a climate." Lu Biao thought for a while and said, "But they are very good. Do you want to follow up?" "You can follow up. As long as he doesn't solve the follow-up funding problem, nothing will be useful. No matter how good the product is, it's just the icing on the cake," Ren Qianbo said solemnly. "Mr. Ren, if the product sells well, will someone invest?" "I always think that President Huang is very optimistic about him." Lu Biao was very worried. Ren Qianbo's brows furrowed, and after thinking for a while, he said, "How much money does he have? If someone gives him 1.5 million and asks him to continue to give the profit to the terminal business, then I can't bear it." "Mr. Huang has 1.5 million? President Ma dares to put so much money? If so many people help him, I won't mess with him." Lu Biao nodded in agreement. Mr. Huang held a simple report in his hand. After reading it, it was just a small snack for children. Mr. Huang was a little surprised that Lu Feng played with so many flowers. Talent. Unfortunately, not to mention talents, even geniuses have no funds and can't bear it, even if they go bankrupt. Mr. Huang put the report aside. He felt that Lu Feng was a clever person. If he could work under him, he might give him bring surprises. It was already mid-September, and even though it was autumn, the sun was still hot at noon. Gao Jiwei covered his head with his hands, glanced at the sign of the dance hall, and said, "Don't you say that Ren Qianbo is disgusting? Come and dance." "What is the hall doing?" "Why, his wife works here." "Why are your thoughts so dirty?" Lu Feng sighed and walked upstairs. "You're not a serious person, you can't blame me for thinking crooked. During the daytime, the place is closed and there are no people. There are a few girls sitting at the door playing cards with cigarettes in their mouths, giggling and giggling. When they saw Lu Feng, a girl joked, 'Boss, it's noon, you can't hold back. Are you staying?' 'I'm looking for someone, I'm looking for a mad dog.' 'Brother Go is sleeping upstairs, don't disturb other people's sleep, he has a great temper.' Lu Feng ignored him and walked upstairs. Gao Jiwei didn't expect that Lu Feng's people would be involved in any of them, and reminded, "You stay away from such people, lest you be involved one day, they are all bad people." "In my eyes, there are no good people or bad people, There are only useful people and useless people. Lu Feng went upstairs as he spoke, and a few bastards in the private room at the entrance of the stairs were pushing mahjong. Barked the mad dog and talked to him about something. One of the younger brothers knew Lu Feng, hurriedly agreed, and walked towards the next room. A few minutes later, Mad Dog came in yawning and saw Lu Feng and said, "Boss Lu, what's the matter? We can't talk at night." "Big business. If you are sleepy, go to sleep first." "Not sleepy. Not sleepy," brother Go hurriedly cheered up. Some of the younger brothers who had never met Lu Feng looked at him in astonishment. Who does not know the name of the mad dog? What exactly did this man do to make brother Go so obedient? They don't know that in front of money, everyone is the same, they are all grandchildren. Make 10,000 copies of the content on this piece of paper, and post it all over the city at night, understand? Lu Feng put a piece of paper on the table. Send a small advertisement. Mad Dog was a little dissatisfied. If you don't want to post, you don't have to post it. You can't earn 2,000 yuan. Paste. Find someone to do the work. It's better to pick you out and do it quickly, Lu Feng ordered. Gao Jiwei picked up the piece of paper, and it was written on it that Zhang Quifang, his 7-year-old son, ate snacks made by Wanyuan Foods, resulting in food poisoning. He was seriously injured, and even had his home address and ID number in it. The descriptions were so detailed that it was hard for people not to believe it. "Don't worry," Brother Feng nodded again and again. Before leaving, Lu Feng left a deposit of 1,000 yuan, and he paid the rest after he had posted it. Going downstairs, Lu Feng got on his motorcycle and said, "Come on, the next newspaper office has to publish a report on children's food safety." Lu Feng spent another 500 yuan to publish a report full of new media style in some local newspapers with large circulation. Shock. Children's food is full of carcinogens, how dare you give it to children? Although there is no mention of Wanyuan in the whole article, all kinds of clues point to Wanyuan. On the way back, it was already after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Gao Jiwei sat behind the motorcycle and said, "It's scary to have an opponent like you." Scary, Lu Feng looked at his face from the rearview mirror and said with a smile, "The business world is the law of the jungle, there are only two choices, survival, death. Then what about your follow-up funds?" "I have a way, don't ask." In this era, money is everywhere. Gao Jiwei laughed twice, with mixed feelings in his heart. In fact, he wanted to leave, but he was curious, what else could this lunatic do next? "I don't think it's strange that you take me to rob a bank tomorrow." "Don't worry, I won't do that stupid thing." Lu Feng rode his motorcycle directly into the factory, got out of the car, and shouted at Han Dong, who was in the factory, "Call Datu and come to my office for a meeting." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 48. In the office, everyone looked at Lu Feng, not knowing what to do. Starting tomorrow, a group of people will go out, set up a business department, and push the products to all supermarkets, canteens, and wholesale markets, and give the maximum profit to terminal sales. As long as you are willing to help us sell goods, you can sign a contract without any threshold. You know, you don't need to charge for the goods, you just need to sign a contract and mortgage a copy of the owner's ID card. If you can't buy the goods, take the goods. If you sell the goods, you will give them the bulk of the profits. We will take the capital, you know. The big head frowned and said, "This is too. What are you earning? Just close the door." "Boss Lu, the loss is too great." Han Dong also felt that it was not enough. Loss is definitely a loss. In business, how can you make money without losing money? People in the business department, remember to find some clever people. Lu Feng said to Gao Jiwei, "No one in the business department knows better than you, so be more careful." Data still feels uncomfortable. When he makes canned food, he makes money when he comes up. He makes money every day. He manages the finances and looks at the money in the account. Brother Feng, when will we be able to make money? For such a large factory, there are hundreds of them every day. What are the maintenance items, and the small cafeteria to eat? I won't say if the products are not sold, but if they are sold, they will still be paid. Dead, that's a bit unreasonable. Gao Jiwei could see that Datu and Han Dong didn't understand the market at all, let alone business, so they sat aside and said, "It's hard, I'm playing badly, maybe I won't make money in this life, everyone is red-eyed, if you win, you make money." What kills the red eyes? Datu wondered. Wan Yuan over there. Ren Qianbo has been silent for a long time, it has nothing to do with us, Han Dong said. Don't ask too much, just listen to me. You take care of production, and you take care of finances. The two nodded and kept silent. Such a large factory cannot make a profit. The pressure made everyone feel depressed, even the always cheerful big head, with less smiles. After the two left, Gao Jiwei looked at him and asked, "I've never heard of it, what do you want to do with a copy of someone's ID card as a pledge? Don't do anything, get the business department right. Did you use those ID cards to get a loan?" Gao Jiwei took a cigarette from the table, lit one, and said, "I can understand it in the past 2 days. I admit that you are very capable. Bo has the same funds, 10 of them are not your opponents, you are very fragile, and those two honest people don't believe you anymore." What an honest person, who speaks so badly, that's my brother. Lu Feng lit a cigarette and exhaled. Using other people's identity information to obtain loans, is against the law, and that President Ma will do it for you. Gao Jiwei felt that he was a little fanciful, smoking a cigarette. Since I met you, every day has been like a dream, it's all heart-stopping things, or you can sit in and I'll go home too. Want me to go to jail? Lu Feng grinned and said, "I'm afraid you won't be able to look forward to that day, so go back and rest early. By the way, isn't it expensive to stay in a hotel? Isn't it? Next to the office, it used to be the reception room. There is a bed. You can live there. It's the general manager's benefit from the factory." Lu Feng walked up to him, patted Gao Jiwei on the shoulder and said, "You can't sleep at night, just pick a few employees and talk about sales, of course, they have to be male employees, don't mess around, it won't affect you well." Gao Jiwei looked at him coldly. This person, who always thinks about exploiting others, lives in a factory. It is estimated that he is more laborious than others. I'm still staying in a hotel. I allow you to give lectures to female employees, okay? Go away. Why don't I have a wife? Gao Jiwei was a little anxious, thinking that his wife felt a little sour, and sighed, "I called my wife some time ago and said that I met a big boss in the north, at the end of the year. I went back after I made a lot of money. This is the reason why I dare not go back. I admit that there is such a trace in my heart. Just a little bit of hope, that a miracle will happen to you. Work hard. I promise you won't disappoint your wife by the end of the year. I promise you with my own head." Lu Feng persuaded him for a while. He had to make sure that Gao Jiwei would work for the factory wholeheartedly, and the battle would be fierce. The whole factory needs him to manage. Lu Feng was going to throw his arms around and work with Ren Qianbo. Gao Jiwei nodded, went to the factory to pick people, and trained overnight. The factory was under a lot of pressure, and Lu Feng didn't want to take this emotion home. When he went back, he bought some food and a new doll for Duo. Early the next morning, when it was just dawn, someone came out to find work, saw the paper posted on the telephone pole, and whispered, "I am Zhang Quifang, my son is 7 years old." Papers like this were posted all over the city overnight. As the first batch of newspapers were delivered to the newspapers in the morning, it was written in the Light Weekly, "Surprise! Children's food is full of carcinogens." This title is so eye-catching: food safety, child safety, and most importantly, cancer, these two words make anyone's heart skip a beat. With the authority of the newspapers in the streets and alleys, a whirlpool of public opinion is forming, pointing directly at the Wanyuan food factory. Local TV stations and newspapers have captured the different smells, and they squatted outside the factory at 8:30 in the morning. "Mr. Ren, can I interview you? About food safety, can you respond? It's just that something happened to our factory. I heard that a woman named Zhang Quifang was beaten." Ren Qianbo was full of question marks when asked. His first reaction was to explain, but he didn't know anything. The more he explained, the worse it would be. He could only shut up and drove into the factory. It was almost 9 o'clock when Lu Feng arrived at the factory. Gao Jiwei was busy for the first time, chatting with a few employees, holding a few newspapers in his hand, talking and laughing on his face. "I'll be waiting for me on the 28th car for a while." Gao Jiwei waved his hand and walked over to Lu Feng. "You are so cruel. I heard that there are already a lot of memoirs to investigate, and the children are also alarmed. Rights and interests." "Oh," Lu Feng said calmly. "This works very well. Why are you unhappy? This is a trick in the business world. There are many people in the meeting. At this time, I'd better stand up and write a report letter and submit it. He is absolutely normal. Under the pressure of public opinion, he has to stop work for inspection, at least half a month." Lu Feng said seriously. "Then you can write now. In half a month, we'll make about the same amount of money, so we can take a breath," Gao Jiwei hurriedly said. "Do you know who Ren Qianbo's father-in-law is? What's the use of handing it over? Didn't you get divorced? Yeah, they don't even shush the old man. Shush me for a report letter." Lu Feng rolled his eyes at him and said, "Don't worry about it, I'll do it myself, and you can fix the business department first." In the morning, the entire Wanyuan food factory was jumping, and the eyes of the whole city were concentrated here. Ren Qianbo was busy with various explanations, and took TV reporters to visit the shooting factory. Mr. Huan kept talking on the phone and knew about the matter. He leaned back on the chair and slammed his mouth down, as if he had tasted the delicious food. He picked up the strong tea cup on the table, took a sip, and spat out the tea foam. "This kid is a talented guy. He's really ruthless. If Ren Qianbo has no foundation, or his butt is not clean, I'm afraid it's over." Mr. Huang thought about it and felt that it was necessary to chat with him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 49. Ren Qianbo's embarrassment sent a strong signal to the entire city's business community. Lu Feng is not to be provoked, but he is underhanded. If you don't have such a profound background as him, don't provoke him. In the morning, Gao Jiwei took 20 or 30 people to promote GMA food everywhere. With Gao Jiwei's ability, it was very simple, and the most important thing was that it made too much profit. According to Gao Jiwei's words, this is a big coin offering. There is no reason for merchants not to accept it. The profit from selling it is mine. If it cannot be sold, the goods will be returned to you. From the canteen to the wholesale market, Wanyuan Foods has not been able to hold on, and GMA has fully settled in, and even some billboards are placed in front of Wanyuan. It's just that the price Lu Feng paid was too great, and he was accelerating the burning of the few remaining funds. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Ren Qianbo finally finished his work, sat in the office, looked at Lu Biao opposite, and said, "Manager Lu, you don't know that such a big thing happened in the factory. I was blocked in the morning." At the door, Lu Biao was about to cry. Where did he go to find out, but he couldn't shirk it? Mr. Ren was full of anger and needed to vent. His manager was just a vent. After a scolding, Ren Qianbo felt more comfortable, lit a cigarette, and said, "What's the situation in the market?" At noon, I chatted with their employees. Basically, there is no problem with the supply. The wholesale market has also begun to sell, and basically there are in the city. Next, the county and the village will distribute the goods, and they will be out today. 4 trucks of goods, clear some inventory. What about profit? I ask some commissary owners, they really don't make money. If we go on like this, we don't need to do anything. He will kill himself. Selling goods is not profitable. Isn't there a problem with his head? Lu Biao nodded confidently. Said, don't worry, let him fend for himself. When Ren Qianbo listened to this kind of nonsense, he was killed by Lu Feng and asked, how much money does he have in his account? I don't know that. If I let him distribute the goods again, I will be annoyed. If the market continues to occupy the market, it will be a war of attrition. If he is exhausted, I will be useless. Ren Qianbo frowned as he spoke. Since he came to the factory today, the brows stretched. Yeah, our profits have fallen sharply, it's best to let him go bankrupt as soon as possible. Ren Qianbo nodded, sat there thinking for 10 minutes, then came back to his senses and said, I'll leave it to you. The mysterious Lu Quifang posted outside, look for me, whoever posted it, call Mr. Zhou. A phone call and I invite him to dinner. Which boss left? Supplier Zhou. A smile appeared on Ren Qianbo's face, and he smiled sullenly, I'll give him a bottom-up salary, and let it be in Tianyu. Standing in front of the warehouse, Lu Feng watched the last batch of goods pulled away today. He was unspeakably happy. There was such a large demand on the first day, which showed that the products were very popular among children. Data was sitting beside him smoking a cigarette, his face was as ugly as a pig's liver. Seeing him like this, Lu Feng kicked his foot and said, it's like someone at home has died. Why don't you be happy? I really don't know why you are so happy, you lose money, we have to pay 25 yuan for such a car out, what do you want? 25 yuan for a table to eat, isn't he delicious? Do not understand. The market, do you understand? To occupy first is to burn money to grab the market, do you understand? Lu Feng crouched down and said, we will win, we will lose money in the front, and the money in the back will come rushing. Crash came, I didn't see it, anyway, I went every day to side, less than 30,000 left, assembly line maintenance, such a large factory, today is missing a hammer, tomorrow will be without a nail, it's all money. I know, routine maintenance. Lu Feng wanted to comfort him and cheer him up. The ant who cleaned the office called out, Mr. Lu, I have your phone number. Lu Feng went back to pick up the phone and said, who is it? I, Huang Yowei of Metallurgical Group. Mr. Huang, why did you remember to call me? Lu Feng said with a smile. I didn't do anything today. After watching the play for a day, it was lively. Now this play is temporarily over. I would like to invite you, an actor, to dinner. Mr. Wang's voice was full of ridicule. I don't dare, it's just a courtesy exchange. I don't dare to play a big show in front of you. You are such a master, you can see it clearly. Stop talking nonsense, your kid is under control. Knowing that you are short of funds, I will treat you to Tianyu Hotel, come quickly, I will leave now. Lu Feng originally thought of having a meeting with Gao Jiwei at night to collect market feedback. In any case, a person like President Huang is not a businessman. He is a state-owned enterprise behind him. If a transfer order is issued tomorrow, he may become a leader somewhere. Appreciation of such a character can be regarded as a way out for Lu Feng. Okay, but I'm treating you a guest. I don't dare to let you spend money, Lu Feng said politely and hung up the phone. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the night is gray, it is already autumn, and the air is a little cool. If you look at it carefully, you will find that the leaves on the roadside have quietly turned yellow. Autumn is silent. Ren Qianbo's car was parked downstairs at the Tianyu Hotel. He didn't go upstairs. After waiting for a few minutes, another car drove over and walked down a bald man in his 50s with a smile on his face. Dirty. Long time no see, so, Ren Qianbo stepped forward and said enthusiastically. Why did you invite me to dinner all of a sudden? It was very lively today. I never stopped calling. You are always on the Three Treasures Hall, Zhou said with a smile. You see that you are making fun of me, so I can't treat you to dinner. The two went upstairs with a smile. A few minutes later, Lu Feng rode his motorcycle and parked downstairs. He was stunned when he saw Ren Qianbo's car. After thinking for a while, there was no need for Mr. Huang to gather the two of them together again, right? He didn't even say his name was Ren Qianbo. What are you going to do? To be a peacemaker, to mediate? Lu Feng couldn't understand, unless Huang Youwei likes to do this kind of thing, or else he would just make a fuss and go upstairs with doubts. The waiter just opened the box door, and Mr. Huang, who was sitting inside, said, What do you want? Bad thing. Ah, Lu Feng's head was full of question marks, and he wondered, Mr. Huang, don't scare me. This time Ren Qianbo really didn't give up. The box next door is eating. Who? Ren Qianbo. Mr. Huang nodded and said, Do you know who you are with? My supplier. Clever. Lu Feng closed the door. In fact, he knew about this fatal flaw. He completely applied Ren Qianbo's supplier. They had cooperated for so many years, and the relationship was definitely not ordinary. But if you don't need it, the time has dragged on for too long. He knows that there is such a risk. In order to speed up the time to open the factory, he must use it, but he didn't expect it to come so quickly. For the first time, Mr. Huang saw a sad face on Lu Feng's face. He thought that this young man didn't know about sadness, and said with a smile, Is there no way? If you're bankrupt, just hang out with me and bring me a bag. Drive a car or something, you smart boy. What bankruptcy, what a big deal, Lu Feng said with a smile, no way. President Huang was really surprised by Lu Feng this time. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 50. Huang Youwei was a little surprised. Could this kid have power in the family? At this time, no one could help him. Ren Qianbo was determined to spend money, and there were few local private enterprises that could withstand it. You bluff me. What are you talking about? I don't dare to bluff you, Lu Feng said, poured wine for Mr. Huang, and said, Chicken doesn't pee, each has his own way, he can think of everything he can think of, I thought of it all, and even if I thought of killing myself, he might not have thought of it. So absolutely, Mr. Huang was a little unconvinced. Mr. Huang, I have always done things like this. When I want to do something, I have to think about the consequences of it. I will kill myself first, and others will not kill me. Lu Feng picked up the glass and touched it, and said, I respect you. Finished drinking it? Mr. Huang looked at him very interested, put down the wine glass, his eyes were full of joy, looked at Lu Feng and said, I really like you. Don't, Mr. Huang, I have a wife, it's absolutely impossible between us, Lu Feng said hurriedly. You, Mr. Huang scolded and laughed, and if someone from Yegang group saw him like this, his jaw would fall to the ground. Within the group, he is notoriously bad-tempered, and to be like Lu Feng must be extraordinarily speculative. Are you taking a loan from President Ma, or using your personal ID card to obtain a personal loan, or taking a private loan? Shark, Mr. Huang pondered for a while and said, only these three ways can save you, and the rest are written in the criminal law. Already. Lu Feng could see that Mr. Huang was really interested in his approach and said, Not these three. Are you crazy? Mr. Huang frowned and said, even if you borrow loan sharks, it's a big deal to run away. You're planning to go to jail, don't you think? I don't think you're such a person. You also know that I'm not such a person. Of course I won't do that kind of stupid things. It's not black, white, or gray, and I don't need to go to jail, so I have a lot of money. These words filled Huang Youwei's head with question marks. He claimed to be self-taught in finance, but why couldn't he understand what he said? Then how much money can you raise? As many as you want, Lu Feng said to himself. I won't ask any more. Now the entire business community in the city is waiting to see the excitement. Finally, I will give you a big gift, Mr. Huang said a little mysteriously. Guess what? You want to lend me money? You like a talent like me, and you decided to spend millions and slap me in the face, making me extremely ashamed. I'm ashamed of you. You're a big head, just like your face. You don't even lose a bit of skin if you hit it with millions. Mr. Huang stood up and patted his stomach. I'm going to the toilet, and I'll sit next door for a while, and help me find out. Lu Feng was speechless when he looked at him with the look of you have to be grateful to me. He liked gossip and went to listen to the hilarity, but it turned out to be a great gift for himself. Shameless than me. Lu Feng picked up his chopsticks and ate a big mouthful. After entering the door, he kept pouring wine, his stomach was empty. Half an hour later, Mr. Huang came back, his face flushed from drinking, his face was full of smiles. He sat down and said, tell you the good news, you are completely useless, they are going to give you cash and spot, hee. Lu Feng's face was a little bitter. Cash and spot are so ruthless. Originally, he thought about Zhou Jun, and the funds would not be so tight. Now this idea has been completely shattered. Why are you so happy? I just want to see how you play. Mr. Huang patted Lu Feng on the shoulder and said, young man, I have a driver's seat for you all the time, let me be a driver at this place, and I won't wrong you. Bar. Mr. Huang, what you said is serious, now I can also be your driver. There was continuous laughter in the box, and it was not until 10:30 p.m. that it dispersed. After leaving the box, Mr. Huang hugged Lu Feng's shoulder and called him a brother. It was very lively. The door of the adjoining private room was also opened. Ren Qianbo was a little drunk and held the door frame with his hands. When he saw Lu Feng, his stiff eyes showed a trace of disdain. Old Zhou, just him, have you seen it? Ren Qianbo said with a finger to Lan Feng. Mr. Zhou squinted his eyes and looked at Lu Feng, shook his head and said, I don't know this little guy. I guess it was a contract signed by my subordinates at the time. Ha 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 ha, just like him, he challenged me all day long. You said that I must not show him the color. Ren Qianbo pointed at Lu Feng and shouted, I tell you, you are abolished, and you are completely exhausted. The bottom is useless, do you understand? Do you want to live? Kneel down to the Lord. I make you kneel. This is awesome. Open your mouth and shut your mouth to make people kneel. People who don't know think where you are. Seeing that you drink too much, I don't care about you, Lu Feng said indifferently. I'll remember it for you. You made my wife and I fall apart, and the profit of the factory fell. I'll remember everything. Ren Qianbo gritted his teeth. I'll keep it in mind for you, too, robbing my business, smashing my workshop, and all kinds of indiscriminate tricks are all used by you. First Lu Feng looked at Mr. Zhou, dressed in a straight suit, and said, you help him. I'll definitely help him, pick the bigger cake, a 3-year-old knows this. Mr. Zhou shrugged. Okay, you're almost useless. Ha 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 ha. I laughed so hard, he said. What about you, that you're about to fail? Ren Qianbo smiled, leaning back and forth. One of them was unsteady, and rolled directly to the ground. The passing waiter looked at the exaggerated two people, a little sluggish. Mr. Huang turned his head to look at Lu Feng. with a smirk at the corner of his mouth. After humming for a while, he burst out laughing and said, "Ha ha, you're talking a little, ha ha, a little big." Mr. Zhou took a deep breath and said, "It's really young and energetic." "You're angry and called a young man on a horse. So amazing, young man." Ren Qianbo got up with the help of the waiter, his face suddenly turned cold, and he said, "See you tomorrow." After sending Mr. Huang into the car, Lu Feng rode a motorcycle home alone, opened the door gently, and found that the light was on. Duo Duo fell asleep in Zhang Xiaoyan's arms. Zhang Xiaoyan was sitting on the sofa, staring straight at him. I looked at the door as if I had watched it all night. "You scared me." Lu Feng looked at her with a bit of embarrassment. He had promised her not to drink in the future, but he was caught today, leaned against the door and smiled and said, "It's beautiful again. It's getting late for you to go home lately." Basically after 11 o'clock. Zhang Xiaoyan spoke with a sad expression on her face. "Don't cry, auntie, I beg you, don't cry." Lu Feng folded his hands on his chest and said, "If you want to kill or cut, don't cry. I don't blame you. Why are you so afraid of me? I went to the factory to find you when I made dinner and didn't come back. When I met a big head, he told me that the factory was short of money and was about to go bankrupt. You look for money everywhere, make people laugh, accompany people to eat, accompany people. Stop. It seems like I'm going to lose 3. Lu Feng changed his shoes, walked up and said, "Go to sleep now. Come here, stand over a little bit." Zhang Xiaoyan raised her head, her eyes were already red. "I can stand over and don't cry, you know." Zhang Xiaoyan nodded heavily. Lu Feng approached, she plunged her head into her arms and choked, "I don't want you to be so tired, I just want a small home, every day is safe, I hold a lot and watch TV, looking at the lights at home, looking forward to your return, I'm tired of waiting."